Tourists lined the banks of Costa Rica's Tarcoles River, cameras ready, laughter in the air. Then the water erupted. A massive crocodile lunged from below, dragging a man under as screams pierced the humid air. Within seconds, the spectacle turned to horror, the river boiling red. This wasn't a wildlife show. It was a real death. The shocking moment caught on video would haunt everyone who saw it. The Tarcoles River in Costa Rica is famous, not for its beauty, but for its monsters. Dozens of massive American crocodiles stalk its muddy waters, some stretching over 15 feet long. Tourists gather here daily, leaning over bridges and lining the banks for what feels like a safe thrill, to stare into the jaws of living dinosaurs. On that hot afternoon in 2016, a crowd stood ready with cameras. They expected photos, maybe a few laughs. Instead, they witnessed a nightmare. A man waded dangerously close to the water's edge, tossing scraps to lure the crocs. Suddenly, the surface exploded. Out of nowhere, one of the river's giants surged upward. Its jaws clamped down with terrifying force. The man's scream ripped through the humid air as he was yanked into the water. Bystanders froze. Tourists screamed. Some lifted their phones, still recording, unable to look away. Within moments, the crocodile began its death roll, spinning, dragging its prey under. The calm river turned violent, churning with blood and mud. What had begun as casual entertainment became a live execution. A man vanishing in the jaws of a predator in front of dozens of horrified witnesses. The Tarcoles River isn't just any river. It's infamous, a stretch of murky water known as the most crocodile-infested river in all of Central America. For years, it's been marketed as a bizarre attraction, a place where buses stop, tourists lean over the crocodile bridge, and guides boast of predators so massive they could swallow a cow whole. On the surface, it looks harmless. Locals sell souvenirs. Tourists snap selfies. Children giggle as the armored giants laze in the sun, jaws open like statues. But beneath the calm lies an apex predator with a bite force among the strongest on Earth. The American crocodile is a living relic. Cold-blooded, calculating, and terrifyingly fast when provoked. These animals are ambush hunters, capable of exploding from still waters with shocking violence. And in the Tarcoles, they thrive. Years of tourists tossing scraps and guides feeding them illegally have created a dangerous relationship. Crocs no longer fear people. They expect food from them. This was the world the man stepped into in 2016. A river where predators weren't hiding from humans. They were waiting for them. And in just seconds, he'd prove why this river's reputation was more than a legend. It was a blistering hot afternoon in July 2016 when a group of tourists gathered along the Tarcoles River. They'd come for the thrill, to see up close the legendary crocodiles of Costa Rica. Locals warned visitors to stay back, to respect the waterline. But amid the crowd, one man ignored every caution. Witnesses say he walked with a strange confidence, almost as if he believed he could control the beast that lurked below. Some shouted at him to stop. Others pulled out cameras, uneasy but curious, as he leaned too close to the water's edge. And then, the unthinkable. In full view of stunned onlookers, he waded into the river, not with fear, but with intent. A massive crocodile stirred, sliding silently from the shallows, its eyes locked on the intruder. For a moment, there was stillness. Tourists held their breath. The man raised his hand as if to taunt or feed the predator. It was a single reckless choice. A decision that would transform a sightseeing stop into a nightmare etched forever into those who watched. The beast was already moving. It happened in an instant. The water erupted in a violent splash as a massive crocodile, easily 15 feet long, launched itself upward. Its jaws slammed shut around the man with a crack that echoed across the river. Tourists screamed, some dropping their phones, others frozen in shock. The croc didn't hesitate. It clamped down hard, thrashing its body with terrifying power, dragging the man into the current. His screams cut through the humid air, desperate, primal, then choked off as the river swallowed him. Onlookers rushed toward the bank, shouting, hurling anything they could find into the water. But nothing broke the predator's grip. The crocodile rolled, spinning the man beneath the surface in its infamous death roll, a move designed to tear flesh and break bone. Each second felt like an eternity, the water boiling red as the beast asserted its dominance. Parents shielded their children's eyes. Some witnesses prayed. Others turned away, unable to watch. But for many, the sound, the screams, the splashing, the horrifying silence that followed would never leave them. The Tarcoles River had claimed yet another victim. The riverbank was bedlam. Tourists who had moments earlier been laughing and snapping photos were now screaming, panicked, desperate. Some scrambled to the edge of the water, stretching out hands as if they could somehow reach him. Others clutched their heads, crying out in disbelief. The man's family shouted his name, their voices breaking against the roar of chaos. His partner collapsed to her knees, begging someone, anyone, to help. But the truth was brutal. No one dared to enter the water. Everyone knew what else lurked beneath. A few brave souls threw sticks, rocks, even plastic bottles at the crocodile. Futile. The predator was gone, slipping beneath the muddy surface with terrifying ease, its victim clamped tight. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by sobs and frantic calls for help. Children cried in terror as parents dragged them back from the bank. Some tourists ran for phones, dialing emergency numbers, voices shaking as they tried to explain what had just happened. But everyone there understood one horrifying fact. There was no rescuing him. The crocodile had taken him, and the river would not give him back. The nightmare had only just begun. Within minutes, the joyful sightseeing stop had turned into a crime scene carved by nature's violence. Authorities arrived quickly, sirens piercing the humid air, but their arrival brought little comfort. Locals knew the Tarcoles River too well. Searching for a body here was not a rescue mission. It was a battle against monsters. Boats were launched, their engines growling as they cut across the murky water. Men leaned over with poles, nets, and hooks, their eyes scanning for any sign, an arm, clothing, anything that could tell them where the crocodile had gone. But the river gave nothing back. The crocodile was submerged, silent, powerful. Somewhere below, its prey was being rolled, torn, hidden. Searchers probed every shadow, every ripple, knowing another strike could come at any second. To fall in was certain death. On the banks, tourists and family members watched in stunned silence, faces pale, some unable to comprehend what they had just witnessed. The thought whispered among them all. If the croc was still out there, how could anyone survive in that water long enough to retrieve him? Every passing minute deepened the dread. The river was holding its secret, and those who dared search were intruding into the jaws of death. The Tarcoles River is infamous, not just in Costa Rica, but around the world. It holds one of the densest populations of American crocodiles anywhere on Earth. Dozens of these giants, some stretching more than 15 feet, lurk just beneath the brown surface, waiting. To tourists, the river had become a bizarre attraction, a place where buses stopped so visitors could peer over bridges or take boat tours, snapping photos of predators sprawled on muddy banks. Guides sometimes tossed chickens or fish into the water to thrill the crowd, conditioning the crocs to associate humans with food. But these crocodiles aren't showpieces. They are apex killers, descendants of prehistoric beasts whose survival depends on patience and explosive violence. With jaws powerful enough to crush bone, and a death roll designed to tear prey apart, once they strike, there is no escape. In Tarcoles, the danger is constant. Locals know never to swim. Fishermen keep to the shallows, eyes scanning, every splash a gamble. The victim that day wasn't just unlucky. He had stepped into a river where monsters reign, where one mistake is enough to seal your fate. And the crocodiles? They didn't just attack. They learned. The river had gone eerily quiet. The water, moments ago thrashed into foam, smoothed over as if nothing had happened. Tourists stood frozen on the bank, their screams fading into a stunned silence. Somewhere in that muddy current, a man had just been taken. And then, movement. Out of the stillness, the massive crocodile surfaced again. Its armored back broke the water like a nightmare rising from the depths. Clamped in its jaws was the limp, lifeless body of the victim. Gasps ripped through the crowd. Some cried, others turned away. The beast wasn't done. With horrifying deliberation, it shifted its prey, rolling once, twice, tightening its grip. The man's body swung helplessly, tossed like a rag doll in the jaws of a predator that had killed this way for millions of years. Onlookers could only watch. Every instinct screamed to intervene, to help. But against a predator this size, there was nothing anyone could do. Cameras kept rolling, capturing the horror as proof of what human eyes could barely process. The crocodile did what crocodiles do. It vanished again into the river, dragging its prize to the murky bottom, leaving only blood swirling on the surface. Hours after the attack, the Tarcoles River lay deceptively calm. But beneath the surface, authorities knew the truth. A predator lurked, guarding what it had taken. Local police and wildlife officials launched boats, prodding the muddy water with poles, dreading what they might find. And then, they saw it. The crocodile surfaced once more, its massive jaws still locked around a human body. Gasps erupted from those watching from the bank. This was no rescue, only recovery. The predator finally released its grip, and the mutilated remains floated into view. Rescuers pulled the body aboard in a silence broken only by retching and sobs. Limbs torn, flesh ragged, the extent of the injuries left even hardened officials shaken. Many had worked fatal accidents before, but few had ever seen something this brutal, this raw. The man's identity was confirmed quickly, but the image of his final moments was seared forever into the minds of everyone there. Tourists who had come for a river cruise left haunted. Even locals, accustomed to crocodile encounters, spoke of it with trembling voices. The river had given him back, but not whole. The Tarcoles River tragedy didn't stay local for long. Within hours, grainy footage of the attack, tourists screaming, the crocodile thrashing its prey, began spreading online. It was raw, it was unfiltered, and it was impossible to look away. News outlets picked it up almost instantly. "Tourist devoured by crocodile," the headlines blared. Millions watched in disbelief, replaying the moment a man's vacation turned into his death. For Costa Rica, a nation that thrived on ecotourism, the images were devastating. Government officials rushed to respond, promising tighter safety measures along the Tarcoles. But the damage was done. This wasn't just another wildlife accident. This was horror, caught on camera, replayed in living rooms across the globe. Travelers who once dreamed of river cruises now hesitated. The Tarcoles was no longer just famous for crocodiles. It was infamous for death. And in homes everywhere, viewers whispered the same uneasy thought. If this could happen here, in broad daylight, in front of dozens of people, where are we truly safe? The video had gone viral, and with it, fear. The images of the Tarcoles attack left Costa Rica reeling. The government could not afford silence, not with the world watching. Almost immediately, wildlife authorities moved in. Armed boats patrolled the river, scanning the murky water for the predator now branded a killer. The crocodile, they said, had to be caught. Not because it had broken nature's laws, it hadn't, but because human fear demanded a response. To leave it roaming free would mean tourists vanishing overnight. For locals, the decision carried weight. The Tarcoles crocodiles were legends, icons of the river, woven into the fabric of Costa Rican identity. Yet now, one of those giants had turned the spotlight from wonder to terror. Reports swirled. The animal was nearly 15 feet long, a veteran of countless river crossings, accustomed to boats, to tourists dangling meat from bridges. It was no stranger to people. Maybe that was the problem. As authorities prepared their traps, a darker truth hung in the humid air. This wasn't just about one crocodile. It was about a river where wild predators and human spectacle had collided for too long. The hunt was on, and the world waited to see what fate would come for the beast of the Tarcoles. The Tarcoles River has always been a place of contradictions, a sanctuary for one of the largest crocodile populations in the world, and a stage where humans turned those predators into roadside attractions. For years, tourists leaned over bridges, tossing scraps of meat, watching with nervous laughter as giant jaws snapped inches from the surface. The danger was obvious, yet, like moths to a flame, people kept coming. Until one day, the price was paid in blood. The man's death was not a fluke. It was a collision. Wild instinct met human recklessness, and in that moment, the boundary between spectacle and survival vanished. The Tarcoles crocodiles still lurk in those waters. Their eyes break the surface at dusk, glowing like embers. To locals, they remain both pride and peril. To the world, they are now a chilling reminder. Step too close, and nature will collect its due. This tragedy wasn't just about one man or one predator. It was a warning, a message written in the ripples of a river that never forgets. The Tarcoles River keeps its secrets, but one thing is certain. When you turn predators into entertainment, eventually, the show turns deadly. If this story left you shaken, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications because we're just getting started. Up next, we uncover another shocking true tale, one that will leave you questioning just how thin the line is between control and chaos. Stay tuned.